This is the Outlap F1 podcast featuring America's own Cody, Andy, and Deanna. Your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. Join us on the Outlap. I believe the saying is good things are worth waiting for, and this past week, boy, was that ever true. You have found the Outlap F1 podcast. This will be season 7, episode number 22. It's our 2025 British Grand Prix review show. We'll talk about why we went from review to review in a minute, and where we all were in the world and what was going on. But you've got Andy, and I'm along with Cody tonight. So you tell me how you're doing, and then I will try to explain some of what I've been up to this past week, because boy, has it been a week.
My weekend was fantastic and very relaxing compared to yours. Good old 4th of July, barbecuing, a little bit of fireworks, hanging out around the house, being happy that I had a 3-day weekend and I was not on emergent work duty anymore. So great for me.
Well, I had a plan for that type of weekend, and that plan got blowed up. So I have put out some social media about it, but I haven't been too much about it because we can talk about it, but my sister didn't really want it to be well out there, but I will put it out there now. We have a new crew member here at the Outlap F1 Studios. Welcome, baby Evelyn Hope Cosmel, my sister's first child. Bit of a miracle baby. Viva IVF forever. After like 2 years of trying, we finally got one over the line all the way. She is a little button of just absolute joy. But Wednesday and going into Thursday was just an emotional ringer because there were some medical issues, and then they decided, so the medical issues cleared up, and then they decided, well, since you're here, we might as well just go ahead and deliver the baby. And all of the little plans that you might have had as a family to try to, who's going to be where and how's this going to work? Nope, that all got completely blown up. So we were unable to do a preview. I was literally not physically able to be near a microphone. So I apologize that we couldn't do a British Grand Prix preview. It would have probably been a pretty good one. There's all sorts of really saucy stories, but we'll get into some of that in a little bit. But we have healthy, happy baby, healthy, happy mama, which is the best part. And like I said, a new crew member who we can both co-opt into trying to turn loyalty to different F1 teams. She will be a fan, I have no doubt of that.
I'm going to make sure she's a Red Bull baby.
Yeah. I've got a whole lot of papaya that's going to be her way. We're going to start this subliminal, like, oh, here's an orange jumper, and here's a, orange hat, and all this other stuff. She won't understand it. We're gonna do it slowly, build into it. But anyway. I'm very glad that all this is that everybody's happy and healthy and all back home at the current moment. So if you have found our show, welcome along. You can find us when we are on social media, on X, on Blue Sky, on Instagram, on Discord, on Reddit, and of course here on YouTube at Outlap F1 Podcast is the handle for all that. If you enjoy what you're hearing and you like what you're seeing, you can do a solid click either the like or the subscribe button, or if you're on your favorite podcasting app, you can click the five-star review. Would definitely help us come up a little bit better in search results. We would be most appreciative if you'd like to do that. You can email the show, outlapf1@gmail.com. We'll get your messages to us. Thank you so much for the continued support of the Outlap F1 Nation, specifically Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and of course, Jonathan Scott. If you'd like to become a member of that hashtag Outlap F1 Nation, get a shout out at the beginning of each show. We do have a monetary donation page. You are not obligated to do that at all. If you want to, you can click it. You can leave $1, $5, whatever you'd like to do. It all goes back into making the show better, keeps our recording platform up to date, keeps our hardware and our software up to date as well. But you can see our link in our show notes for that. But now, with the particulars out of the way, we can actually focus in on Silverstone, and what a wet, wild, and crazy Silverstone it turned out to be. We shall start with our headlines of the day. Cody, what you got here?
Mine is really easy. Nico Hulkenberg.
Feel good story of the weekend.
Finally gets that first podium. An astounding number of races it took to get there. They showed the statistic on TV between how long it took him to get a podium and how long it took Sainz to get a podium, which I think is second most. Is not even close. But he finally does it, and in the Sauber as well, which is just as surprising. Made it work, had to hold off Lewis Hamilton at some points in that race. And I'm sure Lewis was hungry for that podium too, because this race breaks his streak of podiums at the British Grand Prix, which has lasted something crazy like 12 years, 14 years, something nuts like that. So he had to work for it, but he got it. It was a feel-good moment for everybody. Very happy to see him get to that. And he can finally get rid of that unwanted record of most races without a podium.
Yeah, for sure. The Hulk with some good tires at the right time and then making positions stick. That was, I thought, the best part of it. Like, there was a certain part where I'm like, oh, well, he's in 4th and 5th. Oh, that's nice. Well, wait till, the rest of the field comes and just eats him alive. And it never happened. It just never happened. So well done to Sauber. Well done for that team. What that has done to the Constructors' Championship is just kind of insane. Apparently, had you put a bet on Hulkenberg to podium with $2, you could have won 50 grand because it was plus 50,000, the odds going into that race. So could you just imagine, like, $4 is 100 grand. So there you go. Kind of crazy. But anyway, my headline of the day is what a week, what a weekend. I feel kind of bad overshadowing my favorite driver finally winning the one he's wanted for his whole life, which was a moment. But I truly didn't think this would be the one where we got rid of one of the most ignominious records in all the sport. So again, Nico Hulkenberg kind of will dominate a lot of the conversation. But there will be stuff to talk about at the front because there were championship implications to this race. There was FIA stuff to talk about we're going to get into. And so, a fascinating qualifying versus a fascinating race and how cars were making lap times around Silverstone all weekend. All right. Of course, I haven't set this up yet. So let me find my little sound. Let me see if we can actually turn it on. Oh, there it goes. All right. So the test works. So that's good. We know it works. Let me put that on. So we will start, as we are always apt to do, with our qualifying recap all the way back to Saturday. And that saw, there we go, going out in P20. This guy did not have a good weekend all the way around. Franco Colapinto in the Alpine. It looks like the timer is beginning to tick for him in that seat as well. Ouch. P19 was Nico Hulkenberg. His weekend would definitely get a lot better after Saturday, that's for sure. Lance Stroll was P18. His weekend would get better too. We'll explain why. P17 was Gabriel Bortoleto, and P16 was Liam Lawson. Going through to Q2, but going no farther. P15 saw Esteban Ocon. P14, Alex Albon. P13 was Isaac Hadjar, and P12, Yuki Tsunoda. Just missing out on the Q3 shootout. P11 was Carlos Sainz. The top 10 from 10 to 1. P10 was Pierre Gasly. Solid qualifying performance in the Alpine there. P9, Fernando Alonso. Yet another Q3 appearance for the Aston Martin. Those updates are definitely working. P8. We wouldn't be talking about this guy potentially having a great weekend too, if not for his red flag kind of problem. Ali Behrman qualified P8, but got a 10-place penalty, and the FIA basically threw the book at this kid for a red flag infringement. We'll talk about that. P7 was Kimi Antonelli. P6 was Charles Leclerc. P5, good qualifying form-ish. They looked a lot better in practice. We didn't really know where the pace went in Q3, but Lewis Hamilton comes home in P5 in qualifying. P4 was George Russell in the Mercedes. Mercedes looking better, at least in the cooler temperatures. P3, homeboy Lando Norris, only able to get P3, out-qualified by his teammate in P2. And Cody, we're going to talk about how he managed to do this. Max Verstappen does it again. Take out the downforce, let the guy drive, and watch him just wrangle that car around the track. An unbelievable qualifying lap. Max Verstappen on the pole with a 1:24.892. All right. Cody, big thoughts here in the qualifying. I assume you want to start with Max.
Yeah, and no matter how much I try to get the hope out of me that, Max is going to win the championship this year. It's not going to happen, but it is still amazing to see what he can do when he is doing his best, because during practice for this race, he was complaining about the car so much that it wouldn't turn, it would stop, it was understeering here, it was oversteering there. And everything that he was saying from practice indicated like, man, this is going to be a really rough weekend. And it just cracks me up that the team's solution to that the car wouldn't handle was like, all right, we're gonna take off as much rear wing as we can. We're gonna make your car we're gonna take off as much drag as we possibly can from your car to give it as much straight line speed as we can. It's gonna feel like driving on ice in the turns, but you're Max Verstappen. See what you can do with it. And the fact that he took that and managed to turn it into a pole, to me, was pretty amazing. And he did have a little bit of help getting there, because fortunately for him, neither Oscar Piastri, nor Lando Norris, nor Lewis Hamilton, who was also in the mix for a minute there for pole, none of them were able to completely put together a spotless final qualifying lap. And that allowed Max to sneak in there and take it. Now, they were even saying this on the commentary during qualifying that, Max got pole, his success during the race could be kind of spotty, and it really hinged on a dry race, because it was supposed to rain in the morning and then dry out in time for the race. And as we're going to get to in a minute, that didn't end up happening. So by the time we got to Sunday morning, all of my good feeling about his pole position was pretty much gone, because if it was like driving on ice before in the wet, it was really going to be awful. But for a minute there on Saturday, I had hope.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. They literally trimmed that car. It looked like something you would see in Monza. If you look at the rear wing and you look at compare his rear wing to like Hamilton's rear wing. The Hamilton rear wing, is sticking up, and you could clearly see all of the HP, as ugly as they are on that Ferrari logos on his rear wing. You could not read Oracle on Max Verstappen's rear wing. Why? Because it was so far down. You saw Oracle. And that was about as far as you could go. But it was an amazing from Friday, where you're right, he was not a happy bunny at all in that car, to putting together the sim work, to coming up with, well, it was like what they did in Japan, but more.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, we're just going to take more off because we've got all these long straights. And damn if it didn't work. His second sector, I thought, was going to be that was the defining moment, because he was always going to get the McLarens, even on Friday, even when he hated the setup. He was still besting the McLarens in the first sector. And then on Saturday, the way that it was working for most of it, McLarens were better in the second sector, and then they were really good in the final sector, obviously with their lack of tire wear, that was helping them. But Max just, especially in that final Q3 lap, it was like purple sector. In sector 2, it was like 8 consecutive candles of purple, 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 purple. And I'm like, and he was and then the other thing he did that was really smart, he was the last one out. So he was the last, everybody else set the time. He knew what the carrot was, and all he had to do was drive to that. So even if there was something more in it, he didn't really have to. But it was still like purple across the board. And I'm like, nope, he's got it. nice lap there, Oscar, but this is Max's.
He got through that second sector, and it showed purple, and then he was down by like a quarter second. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, and Piastri made a mistake going into the last turn on his final qualifying. So his first flyer was the one that ends up counting. Lando made just a tiny little error, but it was, this was, believe it or not, where we saw the super thin margins throughout practice and throughout qualifying. What we thought we were going to see more in Austria, that we just didn't. But this was all very, very tight all the way up. It could have been one of any 6 drivers. You could have, between the Ferraris, between Russell representing well, the 2 McLarens, and Max, it could have been any one of them. And Max bested all of them in the quali setup. In the dry, that was Saturday, that changed a little bit. Well, let's talk about some other stuff before we go into Sunday. got to talk a little bit about Ollie Behrman, which would have been my star of qualifying, just as a P8 in qualifying for a rookie here. It's a great effort. However, it was not to be because the one thing you don't do to the FIA is futz around with a red flag. And when you attack the pit lane and then you spin your car out and wreck your car in the pit lane, that doesn't look good. The FIA didn't like that at all. They slapped him. They slapped him big time. 10 place grid penalty and 4 penalty points on
Oh
the
my
license.
God, really? I didn't know
Yes,
that.
sir. They threw the little book of sporting regs at that poor guy.
Gee.
So that meant that he was going to be in the back, unfortunately. Other standouts, I would say for me, I thought Gasly's qualifying was very, very good considering Alpine objectively is still pretty much the slowest car now. Early struggles for Kick Sauber. Their days would definitely improve. We will talk about how all that happened. But yeah, I thought that was kind of my standouts for me was Behrman would have been a great story, but not to me. All right. So we will now turn to that Sunday. And I had gotten up early because I hadn't slept much all weekend. So why not one more day of no sleep? And I was watching the F3 race, and it started out, it was wet, and it was kind of to be expected. And then I watched the F2 race, and the F3 race doesn't even make it to the end. The biblical rain comes, and it doesn't make it to the end. And then I watched the F2 race, and amazingly, I still think American Jack Crawford has the win, despite the fact that all the commentators thought he was going to get it stripped away. I don't think they've ever taken it away due to the virtual safety car thing that he had going for him. But watch the F2 race, and that's in the wet. But then it kind of did dry, and that's kind of what we thought the forecast was going to be until we got to the recon laps, and then another wave of water came and doused the track a third time. So now we knew we were going to have a wet start for sure. And the other part of it was, it's Great Britain in the summer. What happens? It rains, the clouds go away, the sun comes out, but that doesn't mean you're done with the rain because there's usually another cell behind it, and that's what was kind of happening. So if you were just looking at the sky, you thought maybe you were out of it, but not to be. Several rounds, or one big round of rain, which did stop the race for a minute, basically meant it was going to be wet all the way until basically the end. And then Max Verstappen and his little tiny rear wing probably didn't have a really good chance there, although he was game for it. He fought it right off the line, but that's not where we'll start. We will start with our back markers. And if you were a rookie in this race, it kind of reminded me of Australia all over again, where it was like the rain made these guys all look like youngins again. Franco Colapinto didn't even start, so he wrecked in qualifying, and they had to put the whole car together. They used all sorts of new parts. The technical delegates report is like 4 pages long. But the one thing they didn't change, the gearbox. What fails? The gearbox. He gets a dreaded did not start. He couldn't get the car out of second gear after the recon lap, so he never even makes it to the grid. So not classified. P20 is where Franco Colapinto ended up. P19 was Liam Lawson. He also did not make it past the first lap. He wrecking out on lap 1. He gets the dreaded DNF. Gabby Bortoletto DNFs after 3 laps after they got going. Isaac Hadjar DNF after 17 laps. Although that was, and Kimi Antonelli DNFs, but that wasn't his fault because Isaac Hadjar literally ran into the back of Antonelli because it was raining so hard you literally couldn't see the lights, despite the fact that there were 3 of them. I've seen the onboard. I feel bad for Hadjar.
No.
No fault of anybody there. That was just, I couldn't see, and I got you. But the last classified finisher is Yuki Tsunoda. That is becoming a pattern we're seeing. P14, not necessarily expecting to see him down here, especially given the practice form, but Charles Leclerc did not have a good time in the wet weather, and neither did Esteban Ocon in the Haas. He only manages to come home in P13. Cody, big thoughts on all of the wrecks? Rookies being rookies, and the weather just didn't really pan out, and then thoughts on Leclerc and maybe Ocon?
It was definitely a bit of a messy race for the rookies. A a lot of incidents pretty early on. Liam Lawson didn't make it very far in. Like you said, Kimi Antonelli and Isaac Hadjar had it coming together. So they didn't make it very far in. Franco Colapinto's career is starting to look more and more on the line because
it's on life support at this point.
Yeah, from my understanding too, the issues that he had with his car at the beginning of the race may have partially been caused by him. They haven't come out and said that.
Interesting.
Necessarily, but I guess there was some language from the team that indicated that he may have made some sort of mistake that may have led to his car not being able to start the race. So if that is the case, that looks even worse for him. I'm not going to throw him out just yet. But considering Valtteri Bottas might be waiting in the wings now, who knows what can happen. We're going to get to it later that his teammate Pierre Gasly is showing that you can score points with this car if you really put your heart into it.
Keep it on the black stuff long enough, you might just be able to score points.
Someone else's whose career is looking more and more on the line, Yuki Tsunoda, definitely continuing to show that second Red Bull seat is where careers go to die. So I'm feeling for him. Obviously that car is not easy to drive, but we said this with Perez and literally every other driver that's been in that seat before him. It looks bad when your teammate is on pole and having a spin, which we'll get to later, and still managing to have a decent recovery drive, and you are the last of the classified finishers, the only car a lap down, not looking good. The team keeps trying to sing some sort of praises for him and say, his qualifying was actually pretty good, even though he didn't make it into Q3. So it's not looking good. And then lastly, Charles Leclerc definitely didn't have things go his way either. He did have some fun passes during the race, some very daring passes up the inside where he kind of almost shoving people out of the way, doing the Max Verstappen where it's like, look, I'm here, I'm passing you, and you either have to open the steering or I'm going to hit you, which I thought was pretty fun from him, but could not convert into a points finish.
Yeah, and Esteban Ocon and his teammate literally doing parallel spins, which was kind of a thing too. So a tough day for Haas. Some odd strategies because I think it was I know Bortoleto was one of the early ones. Where a few drivers, George Russell was one of them, who on the first lap, because it had rained and then we had about a half an hour, thought it was dry enough. Now, it probably was in Sector 1, and it probably was in Sector 2. And if you didn't get your car all the way to Sector 3, it was literally a different racetrack. The amount of water that was on Sector 3, before coming on, I watched the radio recap that F1 puts on, and you're listening to Russell and Antonelli and and Lawson's radio and Bortoleto, and they're like, yeah, it's dry in Sector 1 and Sector 2. You get to Sector 3 and Piastri's like, it's full fucking wet, guys. We can't come in. No way. And so you see the difference. Experiments that didn't work. And then these guys are on now slick tires and trying to make it work on a way too wet racetrack, and it made them look very inexperienced. You were seeing a lot of yellow flag on the timing, and then yellow flag converted to safety car, even though the track was trying to dry itself out until the next wave of water hit. And then it got kind of biblical there for a minute, causing yet another safety car, two in rapid succession, one caused by the weather, one caused by the Hadjar wreck, which looked pretty bad, actually. I'm sorry, it wasn't. Yeah, it was the Hadjar wreck.
Yeah, the Hadjar one looked pretty bad.
Where he's in the corner there. That one looked pretty bad. The good news is everybody walks away, so we're not talking about any lingering injuries here. But he takes out himself and then Antonelli's diffuser. Antonelli went on for a few laps, couldn't make it work, and then had to retire the car himself. So the rookies in the wet, definitely looking like rookies for sure. All right, so we will move into the midfield, and we'll just kind of combine the midfield and the podium, probably because, well, that's usually how this kind of works out. But P12 ended up being Carlos Sainz. P11 recovering from his penalty that had him starting somewhere in Dorchester County in England was Ollie Behrman in the Haas, but no points for him. P10, somebody explained to me why all the Mercedes were just obsessed with running dry tires on a wet racetrack. Did not understand it. George Russell did it not only once, but twice. None of them worked out for him. In fact, the second time he said it was wetter than the first time. So I get trying to be the guy to make the jump. Yeah, George, bad call there. And some of that was just on you in the car. But he manages to come home in P10. At least he scores a point. P9, Fernando Alonso, always a warrior in the wet and changeable conditions. So good to see the Aston Martin looking well. P8 was Alex Albon in the Williams. Hey, Williams finishes. Both cars finish. They didn't overheat. They dedicated their entire first practice to, we don't care about the lap time. We're running a race simulation. We're finding out why our car goes boom. They didn't really find out why their car goes boom, but they got it to where they cooled it enough to where it could at least get through this race distance. So Albon comes home in the points for them. These now become your surprises. P7 was Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. That's right. I said Lance Stroll, the guy who sometimes doesn't give a crap, but put him in tricky, changeable conditions. He did this in Turkey where he got the pole, and he's just like, this is his niche. It's the strangest thing ever. Why he can't do it in the dry, I don't get it. But making the soft tire call work and coming home in P7, solid points for Aston Martin here. P6, Pierre Gasly in one of the worst cars on the grid, taking advantage of the conditions, scoring points, bringing it home for Alpine there. P5, we will talk about why he is here, starting on pole, but only manages to finish P5. Not a bad day for Max Verstappen. I thought he had some good battles there late to come back up through the field. As the track got drier, that car got better. P4, just missing out on that podium, was Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari. Ferrari getting absolutely torched on social media. I don't get it, but this was one of, I thought, their better weekends just overall. So all the Lewis fans, it's okay. I still think they're working on it. I think they're actually coming better. But P3, the story of the day for sure. 239 races, and the streak ends. Nico Hülkenberg, the guy 3 years ago was a pundit on Austrian and German television. He was doing the Jensen Button. He's holding a mic, and now he's a podium scorer in Formula One in the Kick Sauber. Rachel Fleming has had to been doing backflips. We will get to her comments later. That was who I thought of. I'm like, Rachel's got to be going nuts right now. Nico Hülkenberg comes home on the podium. What a great moment. It's one of the reasons why you watch, for sure. P2, we will talk about the two McLaren battle that ended up ensuing and what happened with the safety car. Oscar Piastri comes home P2, but it is Homeboy who comes home, starts P3, ends P1. Lando Norris, this is now 2 in a row in the same season. Interesting times. Championship gets a lot closer, but he brings it home in P1 to score his maiden British Grand Prix victory. And now the championship gets a lot closer. Cody, big thoughts here. Wherever you want to start, it's up to you.
There is a lot to choose from.
Yes.
I guess I'm going to start with the beginning of the race.
Yeah.
So race starts. As you said, it is wet, at least significantly in the third sector. We saw from the beginning of the race a lot of going off the racing line to cool off your tires in the first two sectors, and then a lot of spray in the third sector. Max Verstappen manages to hold the lead off the line and manages to hold that for a little while until the tires started to wear down. And then it really started to look like he was on ice. He was that whole time pretty under pressure from Oscar Piastri. But as the tires got more worn out, it got even worse for him. There was a few turns there where he was still in the lead, where he was very clearly fighting the car. He, was like sliding through the turns, like drift style, which was, cool to see on TV. Not fun for him fighting the car.
Yeah, for sure.
And then eventually the track did dry out enough that the FIA said, "Okay, we're gonna turn on DRS now." And at that point, he was a sitting duck. He had no grip left. He did go off the track at one point as well. I think that was a little later on when he was fighting Lando Norris, but Oscar Piastri gets by him with a nice pass in DRS. A little bit later, Max goes off the track. Lando Norris gets by him as well, so it's turned into a McLaren 1-2. And the McLaren's pretty much made it their race, kind of drove off into the distance anytime that they could. We did get a few safety car interventions, especially when the race got biblical, as you said. It was really, really coming down, too dangerous. They decided not to go with the full red flag because I think they knew it was going to pass relatively quickly. But it did make the whole track wet at that point again. Anyone who was on slicks is going to need to go back to wet weather tires. And I believe it was during that safety car period, rather when that safety car period was ending, when we had something a little strange happen.
I think it's the second one. The first one for the rain was okay. Then you had the Hadjar Antonelli coming together, and then that was the next lap. Then there was the safety car because Oscar does
right, because during that
twice.
Safety car, that was when Max and Lando pitted. Lando had a slow stop,
right, and Max got back by him. Right.
Yeah. All right. So it was the following safety car then, where we had something strange happen, where Oscar Piastri was leading and had been leading pretty strongly. It looked like he was going to be on for the win. Now it's pretty normal to see drivers hit the brakes during safety car to try to warm up the brakes, get some energy through the brakes, and therefore maybe a little heat into the tires, testing your grip levels and all that. And it's, I guess, relatively normal for that to even happen as the safety car is ending, because you want to open up a little bit of a gap from you to the safety car so that you can really control that restart and choose where you want to go. Oscar Piastri stomps on the brakes a little too hard for the FIA. At the time, I thought it was a little ridiculous. Once we got past the race and people were able to actually look at the data and see exactly how hard he's stepping on the brakes, my feelings started to change a little bit. But anyway, he hits the brakes quite hard. Max Verstappen wasn't ready for it, and he actually briefly passes Piastri on the safety car. And what comes down from that is a 10-second penalty from the FIA for, I guess, what exactly do they call it? Unsafe racing conditions for safety cars?
It's basically driving erratic, even though he's going in a straight line, which is kind of
he did really stomp on the brakes.
He totally did. The data shows 60 something PSI, which is a lot.
Yeah, there was comparison to what George Russell did to, ironically, Max Verstappen a few races ago. And I guess based on the data, I think they were saying like Oscar hit the brakes like twice as hard.
Right.
So I guess my feeling on it is, was a penalty warranted? Yeah, I guess I would agree that there was a penalty warranted. I would say that 10 seconds was quite extreme, because if I remember correctly, when Max had his little tantrum and maybe purposely or not ran into George Russell a few races ago, I believe that came to be a 10-second penalty. I feel like the equal punishment in those situations, I feel like it wasn't like an equal transgression.
Yeah.
I feel like this wasn't quite that extreme. I think that maybe a 5-second penalty would have been appropriate. And it seems to be a lot of commentary is saying that they'd agree with that sentiment. But either way, it seems like the FIA was very heavy-handed with penalties this weekend, and they decided that a 10-second penalty was warranted for Piastri, and he was quite pissed off about it during and after the race. Which was interesting to see, because he is normally so calm and cool and collected. And after the race, his interview pretty much said it all. He's like, I don't want to talk about it because I'm going to get myself into trouble. And, he didn't think he deserved it. And I think that's fair. I think, like I said, penalty, sure. 10 seconds, too much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the exact same boat, because they didn't do anything with the first one. Like, he basically did the same thing, and the only difference is Max Verstappen was farther back and was able to not make it wasn't as obvious of a thing, and the timing doesn't change. It's not like on camera. And so Piastri in his mind did the same thing. Now, the mitigating circumstance that I thought the only thing that was really different between what he did the first time and what he did the second time is the call to put the safety car in comes now. It's early enough in the lap to where you can do it. The FIA is fine to do it. I'm not saying the FIA should have done another lap beyond the safety car. They didn't have to there. But it came rather late. It came literally as Oscar's starting the maneuver, because you can hear on his radio, because I watched it back on his onboard, and you hear as he's braking, safety car in this lap. So he's already trying to do just the Delta thing. And it's one of those situations that once you call safety car in this lap, there's a whole nother set of regulations that come in as to what you can and can't do. So from Oscar's perspective, he didn't do anything differently than he had done the time before, and the time before never got investigated, noted, or anything. The difference here is where they were on the track. They were at the end of, I think, the hanger straight when he does the break, and it does look pretty bad because Max has to jink to the right to go around him. The timing changed. So everybody now, if you're a steward, watch this weird, okay, what happened there? Even if you weren't paying attention, you saw the timing change. And even Lando gets right up to the back of Oscar's diffuser, and it's like, what just happened? But then they all got it back together. Like, they reshuffled, they put Max in P2, and Oscar goes. And I don't believe that any of that caused the Verstappen spin, what's kind of wrecked Max's podium chances at that point. But it definitely was one of those, like, all of the causes, and now the fact that it's getting looked at probably didn't work in Oscar's favor. So I get why they now had to investigate it. I get why they had to give a penalty. I do agree that he probably didn't have to do it as hard as he did. And he probably should get a penalty. I thought it was going to be like 5 seconds. Okay, fine. They'll serve it, and that'll be it. And that's kind of what that kind of infringement really should be, in my opinion. Like, it didn't affect anything. Nobody got horribly aggrieved. Should he do it again? No. Now you set the precedent. Don't do this. Do it less, and you'll be fine. Okay. But 10 seconds for that felt like, wow, okay. I could see why he was pissed off about it. I understood that. I understand why McLaren's pissed off about it. And what it basically does is that's what took the victory away, because Lando was close enough throughout the rest of the running. He kept it within about 4 or 5 seconds when Oscar boxes to eventually the track dries out, and when the slick tires are coming out, Oscar boxes, he has to serve it. Now, the pace that both him and Lando had was crazy. They opened up like a 35-second gap on everybody else. So they were not going to lose P2. They pretty much figured that much out. But it does cost Oscar the chance at the win. He did kind of come on the radio, and I thought this was just, well, you had to try, asking the team, well, if you think this is unfair, can we flip around and then race from there? And the team kind of said, yeah, no. I would have said, yeah, no, too, to that.
Yeah, what do you do if you're the team in that position? Like,
what do you tell
got
Lando?
The 1-2 still. You can't, and it's Lando's home race, and it's not like Lando gave Piastri the penalty.
Right.
He just happens to be the happy benefactor in the situation. You're not going to come on the radio to Lando and say, hey, you're on course to win your home Grand Prix. By the way, we think your teammate deserves it more. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen at all.
If you thought the Hungary shitstorm that team had to go through last year was bad, could you imagine what they would have done here with 5 Lando Norris grandstands at Silverstone? Yeah, they would have had Zach Brown going out on, he would have been
crucified.
Not well. It would not have gone well. Let's put it that way. They would have needed security to get everybody out of there. So it wasn't going to fly. I think Oscar knew that, but he just tried to put it out there just to, to say it. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it was a penalty. I thought 5 seconds was what they should have done. That, like I said, sets the precedent, tells everybody, okay, knock off all this weird safety car stuff. And I think it was kind of wrong place, wrong time for Oscar, simply because you see the George Russell one and nothing happened there, and it's George and Max. And I don't think Oscar was trying to do it to screw with. Maybe he was trying to do it to screw with people, but he was not trying to do it. He wasn't trying to wreck anybody from it. And what ended up happening was in my view, they sorted these themselves out and they restarted the race, and everything was okay. But I do get it. You shouldn't brake that hard. I thought he didn't have. The only thing that annoyed me about it was like he didn't have to do that. Like, why are you even trying to play that game? You were in a car
Mm-hmm.
that, in the wet conditions on the intermediates, was 13 seconds up on Verstappen. You don't have to futz with it. You don't. I love this and I hate this. I love the fact that Oscar has the "I'm going to step on your throat" mentality, and I'm going to take every advantage that I can. But you didn't have to right there. Your car was plenty quick. It was proven. There was no way Max in that little tiny rear wing of his was going to be able to hang with you in those conditions once it opened up again. You were fine. You could have let Max warm up his tires threefold. It wasn't going to matter. That's the critique I have on that. But again, I'm with you. 5 seconds and I'd have been good.
So that does end up allowing Lando to take the win here, which was I'm sure very popular with the fans and well deserved, for his part. I think had the Oscar Piastri penalty not happened, Piastri probably gets the win. But as I said, sometimes you get lucky. Lando got lucky in this case. He gets his home win, the one he's always wanted, as you said, which is fantastic for him. Also, like you said, though, it did get, ironically, a bit overshadowed by Nico Hulkenberg finally getting that podium. Definitely the benefactor of tire strategy and the timing with the race, like with safety cars and the like. But he had to fight for it, and he made it work. He passed Lance Stroll on track to get into the podium position, and then you got Lewis Hamilton in Ferrari, breathing down his neck. Who Lewis clearly wants to impress his British fans. He is the most successful driver at this track. He's got 9 wins here.
He's got a straight named after him, and he's not even retired yet.
Yep, he's got a crazy long string of podiums here. He doesn't want to lose that. And watching that happen, like he was, as before Hulkenberg got around Stroll, because Stroll was on older tires and was kind of holding them up, Lewis was starting to catch up to Nico, and I kind of had that sinking feeling. I was like, man, like he's going to get around Stroll and he's going to have it like be this close, but it's going to be another one of those, like, you missed it by that much because Lewis is in the faster car and he wants it. He's going to take that podium. It just never materialized, though. Lewis just didn't have the pace to make it happen, and that was more impressive than anything else to me. I think so he was able to hold off Lewis Hamilton, who was in a much better car
by 5 seconds. But not just, it wasn't like Lewis was like breathing down in DRS or something. It held at like 6.5 seconds for like 5 laps. And I'm like, this is going to happen. Like, when I was with you, I'm like, when Lewis gets around Stroll, I'm like, yeah, Nico's going to make it to the line. He's going to die within sight of his podium because Lewis is just going to eat him alive here. And it was like, well, this has been fun. And P4 is really good. And Sauber is going to still need to feel really good about this. But God, really? And no, not today. Nico said no more. And I don't know what he was doing in that car, or they were giving him all sorts of instructions and modes and whatever fun engine mode he had. I'm sure they gave to him. At least I sure as hell hope so, because when are you ever going to be in that position again? So kudos, man. The celebration afterwards was just amazing. Fun as hell to watch.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic. I had a moment there where, despite the fact that he had fallen pretty far behind because of a 10-second penalty, Oscar Piastri was actually catching up to Norris and was driving on angry Oscar mode. I had a moment there being like, man, wouldn't it be just the funniest shit if Piastri catches up to Norris, he's pissed, they have a coming together, and it hands Hulkenberg not only the podium but the win? Like, I saw that alternate future and I was like, oh man, that would be so funny. But obviously it didn't get quite that crazy. We just have to live with the Hulkenberg podium. But yeah, definitely well deserved. I wouldn't say it was like a fluke or anything. It was deserved. He had luck on his side for sure, but he had to make it work.
No, I mean, the strategy thing that he does, which it turns out to be brilliant as it turned out to be. It was like literally the antithesis of what George Russell tried to do. George Russell was trying to time getting onto the slicks in the first stint when, it was just sector 3 that was wet. So they ran like 5-6 laps and then he came in. So, and they're like, well, you're going to be faster here. We're going to overcut everybody who's already gone to the slicks. And you're going to be faster than those guys. And then when everybody has to try to do the crossover, you're going to be one of the quicker cars on track. And he made it work. And then all of a sudden, he's on the right tire at the right time and is up to P5. So then when the rain comes, he can come in and change back. And he was all good. And he gained all of that track position on everybody who was trying to chase the strategy. He was the one that got it right. It was literally like the conveyor belt of 5 laps to be on the dry tires right before that second wave of rain hit. And that's what got him up there. And even then, I was like, okay, he's P5. And I'm like, that's interesting. And Stroll's ahead of him. And I'm like, Stroll should be quicker. But they put Lance Stroll on a set of soft tires at the end. And I was like, with a lot of laps to go, I'm like, that's ambitious. I've seen this act before. That was last year with Lando. That didn't work. And sure enough, the soft tires worked for a while. And then he kind of faded. Like, we thought it was going to be a Stroll podium for a while there, too. And then Hulkenberg gets by him. And then Lewis gets by Hulkenberg. Or Lewis gets by, Stroll. And then Verstappen gets by Stroll. And then Gasly gets by Stroll, and you're watching Stroll just go down to kind of where it was. It's like, well, what could have been had they put on a medium tire. Maybe what could have been there, but again, the guys who got the strategy right, I would say for the most part, it was Stroll, it was Gasly, and it was Hulkenberg who just nailed it out of the ballpark, and that's why he's on the podium. I mean, but even so, the dry stint. He had to have pace. They had enough pace in that car with all the updates and all the stuff and all the work they put into it. Jonathan Wheatley has made a marked difference in that team. He's only been on the job 2 months. What are they going to do by the end of this season? I mean, when we get to the points where they are in the constructors, it's game changing for those guys. This is the kind of race that, remember, like Alpine double podium in Brazil last year. That's how much this changes the entire dynamic of the midfield and the lower midfield to the end of this season. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's definitely a day of feel-good moments between the Norris win and the Hulkenberg podium. Well, you were talking about that was good strategy. George Russell, definitely not nailing strategy. One thing that stuck out to me on that was, so the second time when they were going to slicks, Fernando Alonso comes in, tries to jump the gun and go onto the slicks, and he comes out having a real hard time. And they were saying on the commentary that he was like 8 seconds a lap slower on the slicks than the people who were still on the intermediates. Now, at that point, Russell had already come on the radio and said, I think I want to switch over to slicks. And I believe the team was like, yeah, we don't think it's there yet. And he ends up coming in for the slicks anyway, after Alonso was struggling. And then lo and behold, continues to struggle as well. Still didn't wait long enough. And yeah, I can definitely understand that if you time the switch just right in changeable conditions like we found in this race, like, you can look like a hero and it can, completely change your fortunes in the race. But yeah, they were getting a little too trigger happy on the slicks there.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I didn't get the call at the beginning, and then when I watched like the radio recap, it's like, oh, that was Russell that made the call. The team didn't make the call. I was going to blame the team for that because I'm like, boy, they seemed really like obsessive about trying to get off of those intermediate tires. No, that was Russell who was obsessive about getting off of those intermediate tires. So I don't know if he just didn't like how the wets felt for him, but he was way, way, way too early both times. Like the first time it was kind of funny, but at least he kind of recovered. The second time it was like, and then he goes out and he says, it's wetter than it was before. I'm like, well, duh. Like, you're the one
Oh, that
out
cracked
there,
me up too.
dude. What did you think was going to happen? But
I
okay.
loved that radio message. It's wetter than it was before. It's like, George, it's not raining anymore. It's not wetter than it was last lap. Like, he just kind of had a little bit of egg on his face there.
Um, one last little update. I don't know if you saw the video. I've seen a bunch of Instagram memes about it already, but Lando's feel-good moment turned into a bit of moment of pain for him, actually, in the post-race celebration. He tried to go do the climbing the wall and maybe doing the crowd surf thing. Yeah, that didn't go so well. So one of his security guards, so at Silverstone, to prevent people from trying to stay along too long after they left, they put all these black barriers that would roll down and would kind of block the view of the pit lane. So, this way the people who are actually in the pit lane can pack up and try to leave. But there was a whole ton of people obviously waiting to see if Lando was going to do climb the fence type deal. He starts to do that and somebody's peeling off one of these black barriers and he kind of sort of got hit right in the nose. So
yeah, his nose, man, it just takes a beating.
and like my thought was like Lando's kind of a klutz anyway, but he didn't need any help. But this was not his fault. He was waiting back, and the guy in front of him, when they pulled this thing, it caved more than they thought it was going to, and he's lucky he actually didn't get hit in the eye, because that actually could have been a problem. But he did come out later on in the fan stage. He's got a bandage on his nose, got maybe a couple stitches. He's none the worse for wear from what I can tell. But I'm sure it's a scar that will have a memory with it for Lando forever.
He's already got scars on his nose. From
that was from when he was in Ibiza, and Lord only knows what the hell happened when he was in Ibiza.
Yeah.
So this was actually caught on camera. It was right in the middle of, like, Ted was doing his recap notebook and everything. They're trying to do the interviews and have the feel-good moment, the victory photo and all that stuff. Lando goes to try to get on the fence to hold the trophy up and never had that moment. So, yeah, that was the only bad part for Lando. That was kind of it. But other than that, the seas parted, but he was there to pounce on the Piastri mistake. It's one of the first times we've really seen a Piastri mistake, and now the championship gets a lot closer. But we're going to Spa, and like I was telling Cody in the pre-show stuff, Spa is Lando kryptonite. Pissed off Piastri is going to be a thing. Lando's going to have a target on his back, I think, the entire Spa weekend for sure. So this is where we're going to find out. He's really a championship contender, and if he can get it done there, this thing is on, and it's on like you were not going to believe, especially just because the points are going to get that close going into the summer break. So there is a lot to happen going on with the rest of this season. But yeah, that is the British Grand Prix kind of wrapped up. A nice long first segment for us, but we are going to take a break. We'll re-rack. We'll tell you what this did to the points. The driver standings are where we thought we were ever going to see them, especially in the lower part of the top 10. The constructor standings are all crazy. Everything after P5 went nuts. So come on back. We'll recap it. We'll then open it up to your thoughts on what you saw this weekend. We will have Rachel Fleming's reaction to her Sauber watch, as always. That will be a thing. We'll talk. We'll hand out some awards. We didn't do predictions because we had a new addition to the crew this week. So we won't do those. But anyway, we'll do all the rest of it. So come on back. You won't want to miss it. You are listening to the Outlap F1 podcast, and we'll be right back after this quick pit stop. Grab your flu powder, broomstick, or apparate to your favorite audio streaming service to join the discussion on Hogwarts, a podcast, where Dan and his friends have in-depth chapter-by-chapter breakdowns of each Harry Potter novel. Join the group as they dive into the magical world and discuss plot points, analyze character development, and occasionally go off the rails. Whether you're a muggle who's new to the series or a pure-blood wizard who won't need a remember-all, Hogwarts, a podcast, brings everyone to the Great Hall for a magical discussion. Hogwarts, a podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, welcome back on in. This is Season 7, Episode number 22 of the Outlap F1 podcast. It's our 2025 British Grand Prix review show. We've got Andy and I'm along with Cody tonight, and we just wrapped up talking about a Wet and Wild British Grand Prix. That definitely was one of the more entertaining races, I thought, of the season for sure. And now we're going to talk about what all that did. The Nico Hulkenberg podium and what it does to the driver and the constructors' standings. It has thrown them all up into chaos, especially in the lower part of the midfield here. So, Cody, if you do the drivers, I will take the teams.
All right. Still in first place is Oscar Piastri in McLaren at 234 points. However, since Lando Norris got the win here, he has closed the gap up even more. So Lando in second place in the other McLaren, 226 points. So only 8 points behind at this point. It's definitely a championship fight, and I am here for it. Max Verstappen continues his slide back. As I said, I was very excited after qualifying, but once I saw the rain Sunday morning, I knew it was going to be a bit of a pipe dream for him to get the win here. Max still holding on to third, though, with 165 points, and he actually opened up the gap to George Russell a little bit because I think George only scored 1 point this weekend. So George Russell in fourth place with Mercedes at 147 points. Charles Leclerc also having a rough weekend this time out. No points for him, but he is still in fifth place for Ferrari at 119 points. The gap closed up a little bit between him and Lewis, though. Lewis in sixth place. It doesn't matter what car he's driving. He seems to always work some magic in Silverstone, and for him, that's got to be the perfect place to do it. So he gets a decent haul of points here. Sixth place in the other Ferrari at 103 points. Kimi Antonelli had a rough weekend of his own. Doesn't make it to the end. Holding on to seventh place in the other Mercedes at 63 points. Alexander Albon managed to get back on the horse here and getting some points for the Williams in eighth place at 46 points. And then this is where it gets a little wild because with his podium, Nico Hulkenberg actually moves up to ninth place in the driver standings. We were talking before about how crazy it was that he worked his way up to 10th. Well, now he's in ninth in Sauber, had 37 points. So actually only 9 points behind Albon at this point, which is just pretty wild. And then Esteban Ocon in 10th place in a Haas at 23 points. So we talked about Haas working some magic at times this year, and it really shows because they do have a driver who is in the top half of the points.
Yeah, so on your constructors, if you think the driver standings get a little weird, look at some of these constructor standings. McLaren, however, are way out in front. That is no surprise given their results the last 2 weekends. Back-to-back 1-2s for them. They are up to 460 points, well clear of second place Ferrari, who check in up to 222 points. P3, that T2 and P3 has flipped around a few times on us, but now it is P3 Mercedes with only the one solitary point on the weekend. They only get up to 210 points. P4 is Red Bull. They check in with 172 points. P5, Williams, adding to their total this weekend. They're up to 59 points. Hot on their heels, or maybe hot on their heels. I don't know where this is going to go, but Kick Sauber has moved up 3 places in 1 weekend from P9 to P6. Nico Hulkenberg has 37 points. Gabby Bortoletto has 4. That means they have 41 as a team well into P6. They have opened up a gap on Racing Bulls to P7. They check in with 36. They are tied on points, but lead on countback from Aston Martin, who also have 36 points. P9 is Haas. Despite all the magic and the smoke and the mirrors and the getting of points, maybe reality is setting in. Haas, and it just doesn't appear to they're kind of losing the development race, I bet, a little bit here, but they are still clawing and scratching away, but they are on 29 points. P10 on the strength of Pierre Gasly's mega effort. Doesn't get them out of P10, though, but it does make them a lot more respectable. Alpine check in now with 19 points on the season. So I think we're going to have, if Alpine can score 1 more point, we're going to have all 10 teams with at least 20 points. So that is some good distribution, if nothing else. All right, so you have heard our takes on the British Grand Prix weekend, the weird Oscar Piastri penalty, the Max Verstappen spin, and of course the Nico Hulkenberg podium. It is now time to get your reaction to what you saw this weekend, the fan email segment. We've got our usual contributors here, but we will start. He did get it in first. Dave Doherty gets pole position here. But then we will get to Rachel Fleming, and we promise with the Sauber Watch reaction here. But Cody, what does Dave have to say?
All right. Thank you, Dave, for your email. And Dave says, "Hi, team. Well, that was some race and very wild. Congratulations, Lando, for winning at home. Well deserved. How crazy to think Gasly was on top form in quali and finished in P7. Your thoughts on him? And Hulkenberg was very exciting to watch, and Aston Martin have been something at this race with Stroll, who took a gamble, which was pretty interesting. Weather forecast was incredible. Yeah, the weather was, obviously we talked about how the weather was really what did Max in. It was quite a bit different than what was forecasted, and I think it's probably just that time of year. It seems like maybe Great Britain is one of those places where the weather can change on a dime certain times of year. I definitely experienced that on my travels to New Zealand this past winter, where the weather forecast didn't matter because it was going to be different in an hour anyway, and it would rain, and then it would be gone, or it'd be sunny, and then it would come back again. Sometimes it's just nutty like that. However, that did not work out well for Max, whose car setup hinged on a dry race. It made for a very exciting race, though. We love those where it keeps changing. Start off wet, just going to dry, got really wet again, started going back to dry. I love those kind of races where it really brings strategy into the fold as much as possible. Gasly making things work in that Alpine, which is nutty. Like that, their cars looked so bad, and we've talked several times about how that team has no idea what they're doing, especially at the top. It seems to be a revolving door of, administrators in the team and, top positions in the team coming and going. Has so many different team principals, and, the CEO leaving, and it's rough for now, I should say. And it's crazy there. And the fact that, Gasly can come out of that and still say, okay, you know what, I'm just going to come in here this weekend and try to put it together as best I can and get a good result for the team is great. That he can still do that. So definitely great effort on his part, showing continuously since leaving Red Bull that he deserves to be in Formula One, despite how people might have thought differently during his first stint in Red Bull, or his only stint in Red Bull, I should say. But yeah, at the end of it all, I completely agree. Big congratulations to Lando for his home win, and Hulkenberg was definitely the highlight of the race for me.
Yeah, I mean, the weather forecast was incredibly not accurate, as it kind of turned out.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody had. I mean, the consensus that I had read across the board was it was going to rain in the morning. F3 and F2 were going to be affected, but we were expecting a green track but a dry track. And then that all kind of got blowed up, and then we obviously had what we had. It made it for a lot more of an interesting watch, that was for sure. Every corner had a danger to it, right up to the end, where even watching Lando's onboard, even though he's out in front, even though he's on the right tire, there was such a thin racing line to where, like, his right front would be skidding across the water, and you'd watch the water just spin off that tire, and you're like, dude, you could slow down just a bit. It's a little, I don't want to see you go around here and throw it away. But luckily, none of that ever ended up happening. As far as pure Gasly goes, yeah, I mean, doing yeoman's work for that team, and that team needs him to score and to put something positive together. So they are in a restructuring craziness right now. So where it's all going to kind of fall out for them is yet to kind of be seen. If they can hire, like I said before, it's going to come down to, do they get the right people in there? If they can, there's good parts to that team. There's definitely some good components to it. There are people who are smart, and you hope that can kind of turn the team around. Colapinto just confuses the hell out of me. He was so good in the Williams last year, which wasn't a great car either, and he's just so bad here. And maybe the Alpine second seat is just as bad as the Red Bull second seat. Who knows?
Yeah, I was gonna say he's not exactly got good stuff to work
with.
Right.
Right. So I'm not like damning him, but it's just weird that you don't see, all of the flashpoints have been negative since he's come back. But But yeah, I mean, Nico Hulkenberg, you can thank Jonathan Wheatley for whatever he's done in those couple months. Him and Mattia Binotto have put their heads together and have figured some stuff out, and have at least gotten that car to the point where it's drivable and that they can do stuff with it, and give them a wet, crazy kind of changeable condition race, and here you go. And that's a guy who's definitely got the experience, but I never ever thought we would ever break that duck for that poor guy. I felt so bad when he came back. I'm like, oh man, that means we're gonna have the podium streak, and he's in he's in cars that aren't going to be contending near the front. But again, hell, I'm glad I was wrong. I'm happy. I'm ecstatic to be wrong on that one. So it was a great thing to see. The gamble paid off. I thought Lance Stroll and Hulkenberg did the right first stint tire strategy for sure. My only quibble with Stroll was I wish they would have put him on mediums, because then maybe he'd be the guy on the podium. But that was fate saw Nico Hulkenberg break the duck, and that was fun to see.
Mm-hmm. And since our next one comes in from Rachel Fleming, I think we're going to hear even a little bit more about Nico Hulkenberg. Thank you, Rachel, for your email. And she says, well, where to start on that one? Only one place for me, Sauber Watch. Nico, third place, outstanding. Drove brilliantly all race and soaked up the pressure. In a day for cool heads, he kept his head. First podium for Sauber since 2012. Remember, this team only got 1 points finish last season. 1. Okay, Bortoleto went off, which was sad, but still, this is a moment to remember. And who would have thought we would have Aston Martin and Sauber fighting each other for a podium? Yeah, that's definitely a wild race, just looking at that. British victor for the British Grand Prix. I'm not convinced Lando was the faster McLaren driver, but Oscar lost the victory himself. You can't do that under the safety car. 2 in a row for Lando now. Is the tide turning in the title fight? Alonso watched more anger, and saw his teammate get all the right calls at the start of the race. No wonder he was peeved. And a disaster class for Mercedes. Why the hards? No one else went for
That's
hards, only them. Yeah, that was another point. We didn't really talk about that yet, but they decided they were going to put them on hard tires, which was a little bit of a weird call on a drying track.
They obviously never thought that second wave was going to hit the track. That is the only way that makes any sense, because you were clearly then trying to go long in a first stint to try to overcut everybody else when they come in and have to change. That's the only way that makes any sense to me, because then George is looking pretty good. If it dries out and if they can get to lap 20-something on them, that never happened.
They've all got weather radar, and you had them coming on the other teams and saying, like, we're expecting heavy rain in 10 laps. It's like, were you looking at something different?
Yeah, I don't know. The weather services are weird. I mean, they all have the radar, but a lot of it is showers that sometimes pop up. But again, it's the intelligence or the lack thereof on the pit wall, even for Mercedes, because they were doing it for both drivers. Like, they put Antonelli was going to be on a set of hard tires too. I'm like, this is a strange call, very strange call. Because if it was dry, let's just say if it was dry, how many of those guys would have started on the hard tire? I doubt any of them. Probably would have been mediums to hard to maybe hard again if it's a 2-stop. So yeah, didn't get that strategy at all. Rachel, you were the first person I thought of as soon as I saw the Hulkenberg thing was going to happen. I'm like, she's got to be doing absolute backflips over there in merry old England. And like I said, that was just, it's one of those moments. I don't know if Sauber are going to score another point all season. I don't think they care. I love I texted this to Cody. I said, there was a Sauber pit crew who had to probably look up, oh my God, what is the post-race procedure? Because it comes out in an FIA document. And how many times do they probably get that book and all those stuff and flip through and go, yeah, this doesn't apply to us. We're just going to go to Park Fermé and be done. So, somebody had to look it up and probably tell him, oh, by the way, this is where you go. and it was kind of funny.
First you go here, and then you go here, and then you go over here.
He didn't do it right because he didn't bring his helmet into the cool down room, and Lando brought it to him and said, no, when you come in here, this is where you put your helmet. So there was a whole...
I did notice that he came in, he just like slapped it up there. And
it's like, no, this is what you do with this when you come into this room that you've never ever been in before.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's almost kind of endearing that he's like, I didn't know, I've never been here before.
Right, exactly. So, we talked about Lando kind of being the benefactor. I do agree. given a race on pace, there definitely would have been McLaren on McLaren something. And I do think it was one of those situations, again, where the team kind of gets to go, well, you've got the penalty. We're kind of going to come in and serve it. We're pissed off about it. But in the end, we don't have to watch our drivers clash and maybe take each other out. So, from a team perspective, I don't think they were worried about it. I do think pissed off Piastri is going to be a thing next race. I do think everybody else should look out. He may just blitz the field by like 20 seconds next time out in Spa.
Yeah, I definitely think that Piastri was the faster driver this time out. He got better qualifying. He definitely, at least in the first part of the race, looked like he had it pretty under control.
Yep.
The gap kept closing up because of safety cars, but he looked like he was heading for the win.
If not for the second thing of rain, he probably walks away with it. It's probably not even close.
So I would say, I wouldn't say that the tide is turning. I would say that they've both really been in it, and that, Lando just hasn't tallied up as many wins, and he had his mistake in Canada that makes him, not quite look as good. But
it's the 10 points.
I would say
that's the difference right now. That's 10 points that he threw away. If not for that, he's leading the championship today.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, I wouldn't say it's turned. I mean, Lando did win pretty much completely on merit last race. Like he definitely had the measure of Piastri in Austria, and he does always seem to race very well there. I would say that this one had a bit more of a luck factor, and that's okay. Championships are sometimes won on luck. But yeah, I would say, if Lando comes back and he wins again in Spa, then I'll be like, all right, like he's on a mission, and he really looks like he's gonna, take it to Piastri all the way to the end. But still, for me so far, I'd say Piastri has looked the stronger driver, and looked so in Silverstone.
Yeah, I actually can't disagree with that. I did not think Lando was on for the win until I saw the 10-second penalty thing come up, and I'm like, well, that, assuming that they don't do anything else stupid, should give Lando this win. All he has to do now is just keep it on the black stuff, which, even Piastri had a moment. Like right when he was trying to do the whole, can you make us maybe do this flip thing? He had a moment on the slicks where he goes off, and he's lucky he didn't spin either. So it was dangerous all the way up until the end. So nothing was given there. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, obviously the points get a lot tighter. My big litmus test is going to be the next one, because Lando has not had good luck at Spa. Oscar has had some good luck at Spa. He's had the P2 in the sprints when they were there. He's had some good qualifying efforts. Bad things have happened to Lando there. He had that one horrific crash, which I think that was always the moment that changed his driving style from fearless to a lot more conservative, was that moment. Because I've not ever...
I mean, that'll rattle a crash like that.
And how could it not? Like, I think about that and I go, and how could it not? But he doesn't have that fearless thing that Oscar has, that I'm just going to hang this sucker on the outside, and you're either going to wreck or we're both going to wreck, and it's fine, because he hasn't been bitten yet. But yeah, and he's had that, and he's had trouble at the start last year. He's had the first race, I think he was there, he was on for a really nice P5, and that was it's broken, and the engine dies on the last lap or the second to last lap or something like that. So it's been a place of pain for them. And it's been a place of domination for Max Verstappen and for people, for all of the rest of the competition. And I think, if it's dry, watch Verstappen, watch the Ferraris, because they're really good in the high speed, and Spa's got lots of high speed.
Yeah, and don't forget that Mercedes were on for a 1-2 here.
Yeah, if George hadn't,
qualification,
worn off his tires enough, they had a 1-2 last year, and they won the race. Yeah. Let's not forget it. Lewis Hamilton actually gets the win for that one. I just love how in all the highlight packages they still show George Russell celebrating. I'm like, guys, technically he wasn't even there.
Yeah, it was a nutty one.
But do what you do.
All right. Thank you, Rachel, for your email. Our last one comes in from the Formula. Thank you, Mr. Formula. And he says, what a banger of a race. Nico. My little guy named Nico loves that result. I'm sure he does. And So happy for Hulk. I must admit, I was being irrational after Canada when I said Lando's championship hopes are gone. Glad to see it is staying super tight at the top of the standings. Also, I wish they would use the battery charge percent graphic much more than they do. Seeing that in the Hamilton and Gasly battle was awesome. So was the colored racing line overlay showing the lines each driver was choosing to take. There's so much more room for more immersive graphics like that. That I feel F1 is seriously missing out on. Uh, F1 has really, over the last, I don't know, maybe like 5 years,
Since
they've
Liberty took
really
it
stepped
over.
up their
Yeah.
graphics
Oh,
game.
yeah.
Uh, my favorite, I think I've said this before, my favorite is the camera where it's like right next to the nose and it's showing like, like the track like just like above the wing, and it's got like the little graphics with how fast they're going and all that, like right in front of the wing. I really love that camera shot. I think that one's awesome. That's a really good graphic. They got the battery percentage graphics, like you said. They got the racing lines. Um, I'm sure they just kind of probably have maybe a bit of a hard time figuring out where they're going to slot all that in, because you don't want to like overload it with
Right.
graphics. Sometimes you just want to watch it with the timing and watch cars going around the track. So they have to probably find the right time and place to slot that in. And we give Formula One a lot of flack when they miss certain on track things. And there was actually one this race where even oh man, I forget what the announcer's name is. But they were in a replay and he was even coming over like, hey, like, yeah, this is a great replay, but this thing is happening on track right now and we should really get back to that. Which I thought was hilarious. So, they're having trouble even just figuring out what shots they want to do and when they want to do replays. So I'm sure it's hard to figure out when they want to throw these graphics in. But it is cool when they do it. And, the better they get at it, the more that they will show them. The battery one will probably play an even more important part next year with the way that those new power units are going to be closer to like a 50-50 split. So probably see the battery charge graphic coming in a lot more next year. And yeah, Lando's championship hopes definitely not gone. Very happy to see that he has bounced back very well after Canada. That could have taken all the confidence out of him, but he has come back and won 2 in a row, which is the best way to build your confidence back up. We got a 3-week break now to Spa, so a little bit of time for everyone to recollect themselves and regroup. So hopefully he's still carrying that high into the next race. Hopefully Oscar's had a little time to calm down and realize that he still finished in second place and he's still leading the championship. So, and God, please let it be enough time for Red Bull to figure something out better than just taking off the rear wing.
Yeah. Can we try something other than just make the car a straight line monster, but you have to turn it? It's reminds me of the conversation I have with a lot of people when they say, well, what's the difference between IndyCar and Formula One? And I say, in a straight line, they are comparable, but then you have to, turn it. And the Formula One car is just going to blow the Indy car away in the corner speed. It's not going to be close. And that's why Formula One cars go faster. To your point, Mr. Formula, about the graphics, I think you brought up actually a really good point. They have to walk such a fine line between the old hats that don't want any of it to ever change, and I want my same camera angles that I used to watch in the 70s, and people who are into the new stuff like yourself. And I think they've done a really good job of trying to walk that line and phase stuff in and make it so that, and they've tried a whole bunch of stuff. Do you remember back when they first took over, do you remember they had the placards that would show the turns, like on the turns? Like I remember watching a race at COTA where they had the pink numbers for turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, all the way around. Then they had the little graphic in the corner that tells you what turn it is. And then I saw a new one this weekend where they were telling you the turn number and the name of the corner, which actually helped me out a bit because I know turn numbers. I don't necessarily remember what corner is which one when it's named. So I was glad to see that. I'm like, that's a good innovation. Do more of that, please. Thank you. Do that in Spa because I can never remember where Radion starts and where the Camel Straight stops. but that's what I struggle with when I'm trying to watch. But I can tell you it's turn 1 or turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, or sector 1, sector 2, sector 3. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they have to do, but they are working through that, and it's I love new innovation. I thought the thing reminds me of like Tron, and it's great where you can actually illustrate the different racing lines, and that was a perfect time to kind of debut it. So that was actually pretty cool, and I'm with that too. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to bring everybody off the Lando ledge after Canada, where it's like it's not over yet. I'm glad that I'm kind of been proven right. We're seeing some of the highs of what this kid can do, and you got to be there to pounce on a mistake, and he was, and you shouldn't apologize for it, and he's not going to. So, like I said, the test is next time out because that's been his kryptonite. And
I,
again, super happy for Nico too.
mhm. I do have one more point on the graphics thing. So I don't know if you ever tune into the official Formula One YouTube channel.
Yep.
They do some really cool stuff on there, and one that they did this weekend that I thought was really cool is they actually did a ghost car perspective where they did the onboard of Oscar Piastri's lap and had the ghost car of Max Verstappen
Yep.
in front of him to show the difference in where their cars were getting pace. And it was a really good illustration because it definitely showed that on the straights, Max had the advantage and would pull out that gap. And then when it got into the low speed stuff, that Piastri would close that gap right back up. So it did a really good job of illustrating where the two different cars with very different setup philosophies for this race were getting their pace from. So if you're looking for some more graphic type stuff like that where it's not going to necessarily show up in the race, I would definitely check out their channel because they do some pretty fun stuff on there, and they do really cool highlight reels, not just for the current races, but something they've been doing a lot this year is every race weekend when they're going there, they pick a popular or famous race from the track from the past, and they do like an extended highlight reel of that race, which I've thought is really fun. A kind of good way to get you psyched up for the race. So,
yeah,
and I would definitely check that out.
And they also do on their streaming channel, the F1 streaming channel. They'll do that. They'll like that same race that they'll do the extended highlights on. They'll put that full race on. So if you actually have the time to sit for an hour and a half or something to rewatch the whole thing, you can rewatch the 2008 British Grand Prix where Lewis dominated in the wets and everybody else had so many offs. There was not a safety car in sight back then because they didn't know what the meaning of the word at that point. But everyone else is going off, and I'm like, really? Where's the double yellow flag? Oh, they didn't do double yellow flags. And this is only like 10, 12 years ago. So it's kind of scary how far we've come in such a small amount of time.
10, 12 years ago, man, that is 17 years ago now.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can count. Well, hey, you know what? I'm getting old. What can I tell you?
It's going by quicker than you think.
Yeah, I know. Well, what have I been saying, man? Life comes at you fast. But anyway, thank you so much to our email contributors. We appreciate all of the comments, and we loved reacting to your comments as always. Continue to send them. We'll turn now to our awards. We shall start with the rubbish. What annoyed us this weekend? Something had to. Cody, what you got here?
We did talk about this one at length, the Piastri penalty. Now, it wasn't that I had a problem with the penalty. I thought you had a perfectly good argument that the penalty was warranted. What I thought was rubbish was the fact that it was 10 seconds. We've seen the 10-second penalty given out for much more egregious offenses. I did not think that this was quite so bad. I don't think it ruined anybody's race. So, I think 10 seconds and the, what was it, 2 penalty points he got for this?
Yep.
I think that was pretty harsh.
Yep, I'm with you there, but my rubbish goes out to, boy, did the rain ever make the rookies look like rookies. Wow. The second some of those guys got onto the slick tires, all of a sudden you see on the timing, yellow flag. Like, which one is it now? I'm like, well, there was one point I'm like, which one is it now? You just got going. That was the Hadjar Antonelli one, and I understood that one when I saw it. I'm like, okay, that's not anybody's fault. But, boy, that rain made the guys with experience look great. Guys without experience looked like rookies, and we haven't been able to say that.
Only rookie that finished the race was Oliver Behrman, and he had his own really rough time this weekend outside of the race. So,
yep.
Yeah, it was rough weekend to be a rookie.
Yep, for sure. All right, so we'll move into analysis paralysis. I'll go first with this one. The first time George Russell took the slicks too early, it's kind of funny. But, and then when he goes, it's raining again. Brilliant. I thought that was actually kind of pretty funny from the cockpit of the car. The second time was even worse. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you hankering so bad to get off of those intermediate tires? You had a good car. You had the cool temps. Why were you not taking advantage of it? So Mercedes strategy, and maybe it's George Russell than the team. But that whole thing seemed really strange, and it didn't work. And you took a brilliant qualifying from P4. You turned it into P10 because of it with 2 spins. Wow.
My analysis paralysis is pretty much in agreement with you. The commentator said that Alonso was 8 seconds a lap slower when he made the switch to slicks, and George Russell looked at that and said, "Yeah, I'll have some." So, yeah, definitely need a need to have a little more patience with that switch. If you make the call right, sure, yeah, you're a hero. But if you make it wrong, you'll look pretty foolish. And I think that is the reason why Russell comes out of this race with only 1 point to show for it.
Yep, agree completely there. Moving to our dark horse of the day. You could double up on this one if you wanted to, and I think you did here. You can go first on this one. What you got?
I got to say that seeing a Sauber on the podium, Nico Hulkenberg, is the darkest of horses. If you told me it was going to happen here, I wouldn't have believed it. As you said before, you could have been a very wealthy man had you placed a bet on it.
No kidding.
So, or woman, very wealthy human being. And that to me is enough to show that no one was expecting this, because you could have made your $50K on a $2 bet.
Yeah, when you think you know this sport, you don't know this sport. This sport will give it. And again, I keep saying this all the time. The sport gives it to you when you least expect it. I did not have Nico Hulkenberg anywhere near a podium, and that's why it was a great thing to see. But I'm going to give my dark horse to Pierre Gasly, because Alpine needs some love. They haven't had a whole lot to feel good about. Pierre Gasly is trying to make the best out of that situation. Solid again this weekend, making the qualifying form stick. That was impressive to see. So he gets my dark horse. But when we move to driver of the day, this one is easy. When it is 239 freaking races before you get to sip some champagne, sir, this one's easy. Nico Hulkenberg. Congratulations, man. I still can't believe this guy was still holding a microphone 3 years ago. And not only did he keep in shape, not only did he go back to cars that were really tough to drive, not only did he sign with a deal that a lot of people looked at and went, he's going there? That doesn't make sense. He's basically going there to mentor Gabby Bortoletto? That doesn't make sense. But you hire the right people and you put people in the right places, and look what you can do. Jonathan Wheatley is a dude in this sport. Don't let anybody forget that. And that's the cornerstone of the turnaround, and great strategy call. I don't know who came up with the strategy call, but whoever that should get a medal. And if it's Nico from the car, he deserves all of the praise. Congratulations, Nico Hulkenberg, my easy driver of the day.
Yeah, and I am 100% in agreement. I'm doubling up my dark horse and my driver of the day. They're both the Hulk. It was well-deserved. I'm very happy that this didn't just happen out of pure luck, that it was down to good strategy and fighting for it, and getting passes done and holding off Lewis. Like, it was one that he had to earn. He looked very, very happy during the celebrations. His post-race interview cracked me up a little bit, because they were asking him how he felt, and he's like, "Well, of course I'm really happy." He's like, right now I feel a little empty, because like it was a hard race. It was changeable conditions, and like it took a lot out of me. He's like, honestly, I kind of can't wait to just go home. which I thought was really funny. You think this guy's been wanting this for his pretty much his whole career in Formula One, at least to get on the podium at least once, if not win a race. And now that he's got there, like, yeah, he loved it, but now it's like, okay, like, time to take a break. Well-deserved break.
Yeah, I think the closest one that he had before was when he was leading in 2012. I'm trying to think of the close calls these days. He had a couple of them, and they just
I think that one was in Brazil. He
Yeah.
was leading the race for a little while and then had a spin.
And then him and Lewis
That was
Hamilton
kind
came
of
to
a
it was
wacky race.
Hamilton's last race in McLaren. They came together, and that I think they wrecked each other. So that was I think that was one of his closer ones. But I know he's had some other kind of close calls, but I did not clearly see this coming. I thought the other cool thing that happened, as much as these teams compete and fight and scratch and claw against each other, when a moment like this happens, they all kind of come together because Sauber only had 2 bottles of champagne in their entire compound. So Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari, and basically like 4 other teams all kicked in bottles of champagne. It was literally like a coming together of different bottles of champagne so that they could, their whole team could celebrate. So that was pretty cool to see. So, good moments there amongst the competitors. And I don't think anybody was unhappy with Hulk on the podium there. We would normally talk about predictions, but my sister's baby timer going off meant we're not going to do that because we didn't get a chance to do it. But we are very happy, as always, to have a new member on the team. Evelyn, we are glad you are here, and we're looking forward to co-opting you into different F1 team allegiances as you grow up.
Watch her be a fucking Ferrari fan.
I know. She likes the red car. Oh, boy. Well, then we're just going to tell you, then get ready for some pain because I hope you like frustration and pain, but whatever. Anyway, watch out for next year. Maybe I'm eating my words. I could very easily be eating my words next year. That's for sure. All right. So we're going to take a little bit of a break. We've got a couple weeks before our next race, but that next race is in Spa. It's a great track. We always love going there. We'll see what that does to the championship and a whole lot of other things. Max Verstappen usually likes that track too. So Cody, you got hope there for sure. Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts before we take a couple weeks off?
A couple here. First of all, Spa is my favorite track. It doesn't always make for the most exciting race, but it is really cool track. It's a classic. More than anything, it's just really fun to watch the cars go around there because, they go through that Radion Eau Rouge turn going up the hill, and it's just like perfect Formula One in my eyes. So definitely looking forward to that one. Looking forward to Max having a chance. And the other thing is, I'll leave you with a little bit of trivia that might sting Andy just a little bit. We were talking about that 2012 Brazilian Grand Prix where Nico Hülkenberg had a shot at a podium that was not to be. You remember who won that race?
Jenson Button.
Yeah, that was Jenson Button for McLaren, and that was the last McLaren win until Daniel Ricciardo.
Yep, until 2021. 12 years between sips. I remember that. Yes, I remember that. It was a lot of bad Honda engine memories, but those are long in the past.
They have come a long way since then.
That is very true. So, we will see where this championship takes us. So for Cody, it's been Andy. Like I said, been a hell of a week. We're going to only continue to ride this roller coaster, dang it. So for all of us here, thank you very much for sticking with us. And as always, may all your laps be fast.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Outlap F1 podcast. If you like what you heard, click that subscribe button and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. If you want to connect with us outside of the show, check out our website at www.outlapf1.com. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at OutlapF1 Podcast, or email us at chatnow@outlapf1.com. As always, thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you on the next one.